we're going to start a new topic, Nelly and I, this week. And it's called Naming with Care, How Words Shape Our Practice. So in my meditation practice, I've really come to appreciate how powerful naming can be. In Buddhism, nama rupa, which is the Pali translation for name and form, it refers to the interdependent pairing of mental and physical processes that shape our experience. So rupa is the body or the material form, and nama includes all the mental activities that go along with naming: feeling, perception, intention, contact, attention. But together, they come together to create really a sense of self and a sense of self in a world. That's how we experience us in a world. So naming has been particularly helpful when I come across something in my experience, and I try to see where it lands in the Buddhist teachings. So I look kind of for a name of a teaching or a form or a body of teachings, which my experience might be held within, which helps give me some understanding of that experience. Also, when there's a shift in my health, let's say, or an experience that needs a little bit more research, and I need a provisional placeholder, a name for what I'm going through, that it helps open something up for me by naming it, because I can get more information, I can get more understanding, I can actually learn something from a name. But it also helps to name something when I'm exploring and in open space, in open territory. It's kind of like a grounding experience to name something, so it orients me and helps give me a sense of the map, the lay of the land. So it doesn't necessarily solve anything, naming. I just want to put that out there. It's not like it solves a problem. It just, and that kind of expectation that the name would solve something or give me the magic bullet or transform what I have into something else with a new name. But it helps me more stay with the experience and stay with a little bit more awakeness, a little bit more curiosity, a little bit more kindness, the qualities that develop in our practice. And I do find this ironic because this is a Buddhist teaching that can seem contrary to other spiritual teachings, which the idea is not to name, to just stay open in experience, and that's a higher state than naming something. So in that guise, I'm looking at names as helping us recognize what's going on. Like, for example, what's going on inside of us when we're conflicted or upset, or there's a few things going on, but we could name it something like fear. And that could just start a process for us for more awareness and to give it a little bit more space. And it helps us not be so caught up in the complexity of what's going on. Really, for me, sometimes naming is relaxing. It just helps me drop things a bit because naming is so habitual. It is a reflex that we have. I really feel like the Buddha was naming something that is very human. It's something that we do. It's instinctual, it's a reflex. But we're seeing it with practice that it's good, helpful, wholesome, beneficial, all those kind of words, to interrupt this default naming, especially now and then. I don't think we have to interrupt it all the time. That's a little bit too extreme. But within that reflex, we know that naming has limits. So it can lock things down too tightly. It can really label something so that we can't think about it differently. It can create a false sense of certainty or knowing. It can over-orient us. It can feel like we've arrived or it's the place. And it also turns something fluid into something fixed. That's really not the direction we want to go, is to fix things. So in reflective meditation, I would say we go more in the direction of learning to use names gently, more like pointers and suggestions than hard and fast definitions. So they mean something. Names mean something, but not everything. They're carrying our associations, our histories, but they're not the whole story. Can you imagine, someone else having your exact name? Maybe John Smith can, because there's a whole lot of those. But I can't imagine that somebody having my first and my last name. And that name kind of, again, gives me an orientation to where I came from, who I am now. It's changed over my lifetime, but it's still something that I have. It's still something that's a part of my life. So I'm looking at it more like the fourth mark of existence, like we need names. They help us function, help us relate to each other, and help give us a sense of belonging. Now, it was quite a process to come up with a name for our practice. Some of you might remember. We're now about 8 years into using the name reflective meditation. And recently, as we've mentioned, we decided to trademark it, not to make it more exclusive or corporate, but to help distinguish our approach from others and to give it some clarity and a bit of protection. Clarity as to what's distinct in our practice, because it shares things of other practices. And the name that we've given it has grown with us. Because over the years, we played with names, a lot of different names that spoke to different aspects of this practice. Contemplative meditation, hence kind of meditation after each of these. Stream of consciousness, focusing, integrative, creative. There's a few people that would love middle way meditation, calming or stress reduction, inner listening, free form, freestyle, inquiry. Each of those names gives us a little bit of a door to something else we value in the practice. And reflective meditation just seems like a large placeholder for all of those that bring those together without boxing any of those qualities, any of those names in tightly. So I got a little bit curious with Nelly and I, a conversation about this, as we usually do before we start a new topic. Would the practice have evolved differently with a different name? Would it have attracted different people with different intentions? It's kind of curious to me. And I'm curious about your ideas about our name for this meditation approach. Especially those who, not especially, but including those of you who are newer to us. Like, how does the name reflective meditation fit with the practice you're hearing us give? And for those of you who went through this naming process with us, I'm curious about your vantage point now. What would you name our practice, or your practice now and how you're doing it? Would you give reflective meditation a tagline, either a few words or a brief description? Okay, I'm going to end the talk here, and I'll talk a little bit about, Nelly and I will talk a little bit about each of these alternate names this week and just come up with some ideas to present for you. In 2017, we did a e-journal which had a creative aspect to this practice. So I'll be talking about that e-journal tomorrow. And then Nelly will bring in another angle on Wednesday.